Hello and welcome back to Dreamy Thatch Grove. I'm so happy you found your way back here. I am Bryn, and it is lovely as always to have you here. Today we are doing a tarot reading for reconnecting with the inner child. It is a theme that has kept coming up in some of the readings I've been doing lately. I'm getting a match. And so I wanted to give it its own dedicated tarot reading. Based on an older spread of mine that I had made, and then in trying to plan this video I modified it a little bit, so it's a new one for me that I have not yet done any readings for. But here, let me get my little notebook. Is that there for a second? So, right here, it's my little tarot notebook. I've been adding some of my personal spreads to it as I have been going back through and sort of sharpening them for this channel. But I call it the inner child reconnection or the joy reconnection spread. So, I'll explain it to you in just a moment, but first I'm going to light this candle. Not always I guess, but generally I like to light a candle before doing a tarot reading. It just feels very primal and sort of tapping into an energy and all that, so as I light it, just sort of setting the intention to try and tap into that energy, that youthful energy, the inner child. You know what that means for you. Just connecting with that as best you can. Ooh, a little bit of it came off there. It is alright though. Where is it? I can't see from this angle. There we go. And you can take a nice breath out with me. Perfect. The smoke like I said, this is about connecting, reconnecting to the inner child and to that sense of joy, that sort of like childlike wonder feeling. It is primarily a 4-card spread. Card number 1, the question is, what is the disconnect between the adult consciousness and the inner child? Card number 2, the question is, what are you trying to, what is it? What are you truly asking me for? I can't read my own handwriting all the time. What are you truly asking me for? I have the 3 last cards of it posed as if speaking directly to the inner child. Kind of focus on that interrogation and that inner work there. So what is the disconnect? And then what are you truly asking me for? Card number 3, what am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? What am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? And card number 4, what can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? I have the wording really specific in these ones. What can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? And then I also have a note to make sure to check the root of the deck for each reading, which that's what I refer to as like the bottom card of the deck, and to pay it closer attention than usual. Different people have their own practices, of course, for tarot, and a lot of people I know use the bottom card as like a shadow thing or like almost an opposite thing. I use it as like the root, meaning like sort of a grounding energy or a foundational energy for the reading. And so I pay more attention for this reading. Bookmark it properly so I can come back to this as we need. Alright. I was pretty sure going into this that I was going to use my mushroom tarot deck, but right before filming I suddenly felt very called to use this Letha Oracle deck. Letha Oracle deck. So I decided not to question why, and we are just going with it. That was loud right near you, I'm so sorry. Be needing this. I'm going to split you into 3 groups. Here we go. I'm going to split you into 3 groups. I'm just going to use random words for each group that give me kind of like childlike vibes. I'm not going to put too much thought into it. We're just going based off intuition. Group number 1, your hopscotch. Hopscotch. Group number 2, jellybean. The jellybean group. And group number 3, razzmatazz. So just random words that popped into my head. Hopscotch, jellybean, and razzmatazz. Those are your words. Just pick whichever one you're vibing with the most. Don't put too much thought into it. I sure didn't. I've already shuffled this pretty well, but I'm going to shuffle a little bit more if I may. Let me as we shuffle the deck, just focusing on trying to connect to the energies of your smallest self, if that makes sense. I apologize if there is a slight change in the angle. I needed to pause filming to go politely ask my roommates to keep it down. So if you continue to hear noises, that's what that is. And that's okay. Alright. Do I remember the names I gave the three groups? It's been a minute now. Hopscotch. Jellybean, razzmatazz, of course. Hopscotch group. Let me set you right there. Card number 1. Card number 1 for the hopscotch group. What is the disconnect between the adult consciousness and the inner child? Daisies. There is a whisper of a glimpse of opportunities to fill your life with joy. I'm going to pull all 4 of them before we go in and try to read their descriptions. So that is the disconnect. I will say right away, it's hard for me not to just immediately start trying to dissect it, even when I try not to, but right away this feels to me like there's not a distinct fault line or crack between. There's no, it's more like it's just a bit too quiet. There are vestiges, it's a whisper of a glimpse. So the disconnect is more of a quiet one, is the vibe I'm getting. Card number 2. What are you truly asking me for? Tapping into your inner child and asking, what are you truly asking me for? Oof, heat wave. This is largely a very positive deck. And I will be honest, this one is the kind of darkest card in the deck. Heat wave, it says, there is something ominous being illuminated by the flames that await. A very anxious card. Remember, this is not meant to be prophetic. This is not telling your future. This is what your inner child is asking for. I will read the description in a minute, but my immediate take is that your inner child largely is asking for a hypervigilance. It is largely crouched in fear. And we will need to take this in context of the whole reading to decide if we think that that is an intuition to heed, or if that is a paranoia to work through. That's not clear to me yet. We will simply have to keep reading and take them all in together. Card number 3. What am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? Asking your inner child, what am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? Very good. Very good question in the context of this reading so far. Butterflies. Here in the unknown, you will find the essence of who you truly are and what magic awaits. There's something thematic with butterflies to that idea of the cocoon and the what is it, the chrysalis. The chrysalis, the transformation from caterpillar to butterfly, maybe. But I want to read the description from the booklet before I try to make any assumptions. And the fourth card, asking your inner child, what can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? What can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? Remembering that the first card there even uses the word joy in its description. Oh, money magic. It's just funny when like the kind of advice card in a reading is like pretty direct. Do some money magic. It might not be that literal, it just made me laugh, I don't know. It says, it is in limiting beliefs that magic goes to die. Abundance does not need to be financial, and the card money magic here does not need to be literally about actual literal money, actual literal wealth. It can be a matter of like calling in resources, calling in abundance for a full life in ways other than just financial. I'm going to, I think, read the descriptions for all of these before I double check your root card as well, in the hopes that I do not forget. So, your first card here, the disconnect card, was daisies, 8. Again, as I said at the top, this is a slightly different variation on this reading than I used to have for myself before. But I know before I used to pay very close attention to the numbers on the cards in this particular spread. That would be too personal for me to be able to tell you anything. I should specify specifically in relation to the idea of maybe ages. So if you would like to pay attention to that, you can. It just, whatever resonates for you. That would be too personal for me to possibly guess about you. So I'm not going to. If you feel called to pay note to that, you can though. So the disconnect card. Daisies, 8. Cheerfulness, pure joy, feeling better, love and care. Daisies are really one of the happiest flowers. They are small but bright and seem to dance in the wind as though they haven't a care in the world. Often given to people who are sick or down, these little flowers bring a burst of cheer into your darkest days. Receiving them is a reminder that someone loves and cares for you and took the time to make sure you are doing okay. Someone is thinking of you when you receive this card. Again, bearing in mind, I always say this when I do the Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks, but bearing in mind that that's written as if you're just doing like a single card pull. So when it says someone's thinking of you when you pull this, taking in mind the meaning of this position in the spread, which is not meant to be like, it's not meant to be prophetic here. It's more of a reflection on, as I said, that disconnect. But it says, someone is thinking of you when you receive this card and would love to hear from you soon. They have wondered whether or not you're okay, or perhaps are hoping you're thinking of them as well. This card can mean a happy reunion is on the way, especially if someone specific popped into your mind. Reach out and see if there is an opportunity to reconnect with someone who could bring a vast amount of joy into your life. If someone reaches out to you, be sure to reciprocate the interest, even if your last encounter ended on a sour note. Daisies are sometimes given as a sign of lasting love and friendship, so give things another chance. In the context of that being the disconnect between your adult consciousness and your inner child, I see the person they are referring to as being that younger, smallest version of you. It frames that disconnect more so as almost a growing apart with the slight souring rather than being contentious necessarily. And it also frames it as being very much a feeling of your inner child attempting to reach out, and there being resistance in your more adult consciousness of accepting that reaching out. I read this as primarily being an issue of resistance on your part, likely subconscious. I think I want to keep reading, especially the last two cards feel a little bit less clear to me right away, or maybe mostly just the butterflies card. But I'm thinking I'm seeing a lot of maybe fear in this reading so far. A sense of insecurity, and it's not clear to me whether for you that is a matter of insecurity in terms of financial insecurity or insecurity in terms of things you are sensitive about, things that you feel insecure about yourself. I wonder if perhaps there's a place where those overlap. That's my roommates again. I apologize. For now, I'm going to continue on with the reading. This is the "What are you truly asking me for" card. This is what your inner child is truly asking you for right now. Heat wave, seek shade, challenging circumstances, getting burned. And the number is 15. Please understand that the situation you have inquired about is potentially catastrophic. You should seek shelter immediately, as this is a clear sign that things will come to an end, and a prolonged exposure could result in devastating consequences. Events that have led up to this point are not serving you in any positive way, and in fact, you might feel some effects already. Stay vigilant in the coming days and weeks. This card is the most ominous of the deck and could mean your situation has already reached a critical point. As a final note, the effects of this card are challenging, but you can choose to lean into changes and to make the best out of the rubble. Again, remembering that this is not prophetic. We are not reading your future here. We are trying to read what your inner child is asking for. It is asking for vigilance. It says seek shade. The word that popped in my head is retreat. Even the visual of the figure sort of curled up into the fetal position. Your inner child cannot predict the future, so I am inclined to maybe read this as paranoia, but there is a chance that it could also be a matter of the intuition that you used to have in your younger days that you have gone away from. So I'm not sure which it is, but my immediate thought is that this is likely a matter of paranoia, and that maybe you should not indulge what your inner child is asking for in this case. But I really want to read the description for card number 3 to get a better sense of it. This is, what am I not doing enough right now to make you feel safe? And there's a clear feeling of feeling. This is the card in the deck that is the most feeling unsafe. So let's read this one. What am I not doing enough? This is butterflies. And it is card number 2. There we go. What am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? The keywords are breakthrough, transcendence, and profound change. I mentioned thinking it might have to do with the metamorphosis and the chrysalis and all that. Breakthrough, transcendence, and profound change. The humble caterpillar, melting down and rebuilding itself into a stunning butterfly, is one of the most beautiful symbols of transformation the world has ever seen. I'm going to change my levels a little bit here. There we go. And talk about an extreme makeover. A caterpillar essentially digests itself by releasing special enzymes within the chrysalis that dissolve its tissues into a soup of proteins that are then used to rebuild the body, forming its wings, legs, and the rest of its anatomy. A caterpillar's willingness to completely break itself down is what leads to such profound change. It may be difficult, but it knows it has outgrown its current state, and it's time to set itself free. You are in the midst of a profound breakthrough and are about to transcend your understanding of who you were until this point. Spiritual signs come so rarely in the form of a huge flashing billboard, but in this case you can expect something truly dramatic to shake up your way of being. Whether or not this change is the result of a devastating event or a happy coincidence is unknown at this point. Either way, your life will look completely different a year from now as a result of what happens in the coming months. Pay special attention to synchronicities and dreams as they are appearing to get your attention. They are your confirmation that what is happening is meant for you, and you should continue to follow the threads. Additionally, this card is a validation of a desire to make a significant life change, and it means yes when asking yes or no questions. Wow. In the context of this position in the spread, that is a pretty all-encompassing request. It can be a little bit overwhelming to ask, what do I need to do more of? And the answer simply be change. You do not need to find this overwhelming right now. I think it's interesting to compare this card with the first two. We have one that's like very ominous and kind of hopeless, for lack of a better word, and then one that's very bright and hopeful. And so I think it's fitting to have a sort of transformative energy in this card here. I had to mess with my levels. I feel like now I'm too quiet. Am I too quiet now? Sorry. There we go. Yeah, I think that the main issue with this card is just that it feels a little bit too all-encompassing, I think. And that can feel I think, scary or intimidating. Intimidating is the right word, I think. But I think mostly a lot of that has to do with tapping back into the sense of joy anyway. And that is really like the heart of this reading. And you clicked on this for a reason, so I don't think you're somebody who should be afraid of the idea of that. A lot of transformation. I don't want to say that it's easy because it's not, but I feel like emphasizing how hard it is would be unhelpful because I think that people kind of at the precipice of change of the self, are so hyper aware that it's a difficult thing to do, that they've like built it up in their heads. And so it would be true if I told you that that's hard, except that I think that if you hear me say that, you might like think that I mean it's even harder than whatever you're expecting. And I actually think a lot of times it's just like the deciding to start. That's where it's really difficult. And so once you actually start making that effort and just decide to change, from that point on, things can get so much easier than you ever would have expected. In the last maybe year and a half or so, I feel like I've gone through a lot of very big changes of myself. And I found that kept almost getting very mad at myself. Mad at like the idea of realizing how much easier it was than I thought it was going to be. And like the dread that I let build up in myself in that anticipation was so, and it's not unfounded, just disproportionate. So I don't want you to feel intimidated by the idea that in order to reconnect to your inner child and in order to heal really, that there needs to be like big change in yourself. I don't want that to feel intimidating for you. I want that should feel inspiring, and that should feel maybe exciting is the right word. Because a lot of good things that are exciting are also scary. But it's more of a roller coaster than a skydive. Does that make sense? So many pieces of monumental change are just about opening yourself up to the things that already appeal to you. And what I mean by that is like, I want to say like indulging in pleasure without guilt in a way. The things that bring you joy for a reason, and that reveal something about who you are. And so if you're trying to like, for lack of a better term, find yourself, so much of that is going to look like just going, oh yeah, I can have a good time. Oh yeah, I have free will. You know? Let me get a little notebook here. What is the wording of the fourth card again? Yes, the fourth card. What can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? This should be like specific, actionable advice. Specific, actionable advice. And it said money magic. The number is 25. What's this one? It was 15, that's right. 8, 15, 2, 25. So money magic. There it is. What do I need to do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? And the answer was money magic. The keywords are wealth consciousness and enough to go around. Says here, Letha is all about abundance and growth, making it an excellent time to work on wealth consciousness. To have a healthy attitude towards wealth means knowing that there's enough to go around for everyone. The universe and everything in it is unlimited, and there is no end to the prosperity you can experience. Every person has the ability to be very affluent if their consciousness is tuned to the vibration of wealth. How do you know if you have a strong wealth mindset? If your response to your potential to be prosperous was, I doubt it, then you are sabotaging your ability to manifest an increase in finances. You can never manifest something if you don't believe you can. And this card has appeared to you because it's time to do the work needed to eliminate self-sabotaging beliefs about finances. There are common beliefs about money being evil, that people who have it are bad people. You don't have the right education or experience to generate wealth, or you aren't the kind of person who could make that kind of money. With just a little bit of research, I guarantee you can find someone who had very similar circumstances to you, yet is living the life of their dreams. This card is nearly always about money, but when it appears in a love reading, it can also mean your financial situation plays a significant part in your relationships. Okay, earlier I said that it might be like more metaphorical about abundance, but apparently it really is about finances. It may indicate fights about money, or that you need to be in a stronger financial situation to attract the kind of partner you wish to have. They give an example of a stuffed pepper money spell. That just sort of sounds delicious, honestly. I'm not going to read that right now. I feel like this is a crazy card to pull in that position. I was not expecting it to be more... Practical's not the right term, but I guess direct, perhaps. More direct. Honestly, this is kind of the amount of directness I wish all readings operated at. This doesn't mean you need to literally perform magic. You can, but you don't need to do a spell or start a money bowl. Although personally I love having a money bowl. I have one that I keep. I made a video about it actually. But it's mostly about a change in mindset. I am reminded of a tarot card. Is it 8? The 8 of Wands, I believe. Let me double check that. I believe it's the 8 of Wands. Where it is all about self-imposed bindings. No, it is not the 8 of Wands. I am 100% wrong. Swords, of course. The 8 of Swords. It's about self-imposed bindings and feeling trapped in a situation that you could escape. And any time that comes up in a reading, I always feel the need to give sort of a heads up that I know that can sound really invalidating. It can sound like somebody looking at your entire life and going, oh, no, that's all just in your head. And that's not what I mean. That's not what that card means. You can't just be like, oh, just think your way out of it. I know that it's not actually that simple. And also, if you are feeling defeatist about things, then of course you're going to stay defeated. It's not that deciding to change your mindset is the thing that will change your life. It's just the thing you need to do in order to allow that to even be a possibility. And so when people talk about mindset shifting or talking about changing your outlook, I said something similar to this I think in a video where I was doing sort of manifestation affirmations. But I know that it can feel invalidating in a way, and it can feel untruthful to how real life works. To just be and then you believe in yourself and everything's fine forever. but the circumstances you find yourself in are real, and they don't need to be your fault to have parts of them within your control. And I think that maybe this reading on the whole there's something in this about the idea that life could be easier for you despite the parts of it that have been so dark or scary. And you don't need to decide that the dark, scary parts were within your control in order to take control where you can. And that's sort of the overall theme I'm getting here. Maybe that's a little heavy, I'm sorry. With the daisies. This one, as I said, seemed like, I forget how I worded it now. I had to stop filming for an hour and a half there, so I forget how I worded this one, but to me there's an idea here that that connection to your inner child, it's easier than you're making it. And that doesn't mean that it was made easy for you by life, but where you are right now, it's easier than you're making it. I now feel pretty confirmed that he wave here, as being the thing your inner child is asking for, is a sense of paranoia. And that this is mostly happening because that adult consciousness that you're carrying right now is not, you are not allowing yourself to feel safe because you need that kind of transformation, and it's clear that that transformation needs to come from a mindset shift as to your own potential. There's something that I've started seeing in videos all the time, and that's just that when it comes to trying to conceptualize your own potential, a lack of precedent is not impossibility. And what I mean by that is that the fact that if you haven't really felt that sense of abundance, if you haven't felt safe, if you feel you haven't had the opportunity to feel much joy in certain areas of your life, that doesn't mean that it can never happen for you. It just feels like it can't because your brain is so trained on precedent and knowing based on prior experience. You have your whole life ahead of you, and most of it is going to be things you haven't already experienced. So why would you cut off your own potential for the sake of sounding realistic to yourself? You don't need to be delusional to believe that you get to be happy, or that you get to be safe, or maybe even specifically financially, that you get to live comfortably. This card really surprised me. So, ultimately, I think you need to focus on that idea of letting yourself believe in your own potential. I think it could be helpful to you to get specific about what you would want your money to do for you. If you had enough of it, if you had plenty, if you were actually wealthy. Get a sense of not just seeing a number in your bank account. Get a sense of what you want your money to do for you someday. and then start believing that that can happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, really, specificity in visualizing your future is very helpful. That feels to your brain like setting that precedent, because it, like, the hypothetical scenarios you make up, your brain really does take in. And that is true for anxiety and dread. And it will also be true for believing in your abilities, believing that you are capable. Because ultimately, like, financial worries, and believe me, I'm in it with you, baby, I'm there. Financial worries always involve an element of believing that you just aren't capable. And again, that doesn't mean that you're like, oh, you're not even subject to capitalism if you believe yourself. No. Real life is more complicated than that. I know. But don't kneecap your own potential, because that's just, you're just going to end up hurting yourself in the long run. And finally, we're going to pick up the deck and look at the root card for you. I use the root card as sort of like the overall guiding energy of the reading. For you, it is garden beds. Sometimes it is difficult to see how hard you're working when you don't provide space for reflection. That feels a lot like what I was saying about the lack of precedent. Working smarter, resourcefulness, and evaluating progress. Having a home garden is hard work, but there are ways to work smarter and make the most of the spaces you have with the use of garden beds. They raise your garden up, making things a little easier on your knees, help to keep critters out, allow you to control the soil content, reduce weeds, and provide more growing space. It's a much easier way of setting up your home garden, especially if you are a beginner who doesn't have the know-how to tackle more challenging growing areas. Will it guarantee success? No, but it's always a good idea to work smarter, not harder. The way this is written is so good for everything I was just saying. Wow, I love this card. This card questions how productive you have actually been. Are you doing a lot of busy work but achieving very little? Are you taking extra steps or making simple mistakes that are easily avoided? Take a look at your progress to determine whether you are actually making any progress. Oh, wait, what? No, it says that. Take a look at your progress to make sure you are actually making any progress. You could be wasting your efforts on something that isn't worth your investment. If you're happy with where you are, consider how you can be more methodical in your approach. Now might be a good time to hire an assistant, implement a system to increase input, or consider eliminating something so you can focus all your energy into something else. Drawing this card also means you're wasting a lot of time trying to learn skills when you could enroll in a class or work with someone who has the experience to help you cut through a steep learning curve. Wow. The second half of that description was really more direct advice in the same way money magic was. This reading is really advising direct action for you. And as I was saying with butterflies, I hope that does not feel overwhelming or intimidating to you, you should be excited. And you should be hopeful for yourself. That is it for you, hopscotch group. What were my other words? Jellybean and something crazy. What was the stupid one I went with last? Razzmatazz, that's right. Well, in any case, this is for the jellybean group. Jellybean group. Alright. Let me look up the wording again. I have specific wording for the questions for each card. I want to say them right. Alright, jellybean group. Card number 1. What is the disconnect between the adult consciousness and the inner child? Horse. Unsure of how to break out of your cage, spirit shares strength through acts of liberation. This is very much a card about like feeling free and untethered, unbridled, really. Disconnect there then seems to be a sense of restriction on your adult self, maybe. Maybe feeling bogged down in the rat race and a need to feel like you are being practical, right? So much of the idea of like maturity involves just almost forcibly letting go of anything that used to bring us comfort and letting go of like silly fun. When is the last time you just like, when's the last time you frolicked, bro? Was the way that sentence popped into my head. When's the last time you frolicked, bro? But like, really? I feel like maybe it feels like life for some time now has just felt like all work and no play. Or it may be more accurate to say all appeasing others and fitting in and no just following your own instincts. I'm going to pull all the cards before reading the booklet for them, but that one felt clear to me right away, so I was in the mood to just editorialize. But we will pull card number 2. Asking your inner child, what are you truly asking me for? What are you truly asking me for? Ooh, cloud scrying. Be still, for it is in the act of patience that guidance is met with clarity. Be still. Cloud scrying. I don't know that I've ever read the description of this card, so I won't say too much about it as of yet. But already that feels pretty tied in with the first card. And that sense of just like just cloud watching, just enjoying yourself and like letting go in that childlike way. on for now. Card number 3. Where am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? Asking your inner child, where am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? Sun tea. Slow, intentional, delicious interweaving with life holds more magic than you think. Slow, intentional, delicious interweaving with life holds more magic than you think. Is it rude if I say that this feels extremely straightforward? For me so far, I feel like I have such a good sense of the frustrations of this group right now. Card number 4. Asking your inner child, what can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? What can I do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? Summer berries. Be wary of picking your harvest too early and risking losing the sweetness of it all. It's not about stillness and slowness and patience in here that I find really interesting. But let's just get straight into reading these descriptions here. So the disconnect card. Disconnect is horse, and it's number 18. I told the last group that with this particular reading, I like to look at the numbers personally when I'm doing like a personal reading and see if that feels like there's any meaning there for me, particularly to do with like ages or things like that. So if you feel called to take note of that, you can, but just take what resonates. This is card number 18. Horse. Freedom, regality, confidence, and strength. Again, remembering this is representing the disconnect between the adult consciousness and the inner child. Horses are meant to be wild and free, which is why they are such powerful creatures that are capable of running for long distances and over different terrain. It's not uncommon to hear tales of having to break a horse when attempting to domesticate a wild one. How sad it must be for a horse to go from roaming endless landscapes to being confined to a small box inside a barn. If a horse remains bound for long enough, they may fail to see when the opportunity presents itself to run back into the wild. When the horse card gallops into your reading, it could be a sign that your spirit is broken and you have lost your sense of regality and strength. You may feel stuck, stagnant, bored, or stuck in a rut, unsure of how to break out of your cage and find more passion and excitement. Dig deep and reconnect with your sense of freedom. Remove the shoulds and supposed to do's from your perspective and follow your heart and instincts. The beauty about being free is that you can change your mind if you want to go one way and find that doesn't work. What does it say? Oh, is that you can change your mind. If you go one way and find that doesn't work, simply shift directions and try something else, never apologizing for not being caged. I feel like that card is so good, specifically for being about that disconnection, that I'm not even going to add anything else. I already said my piece about it. confirmed that pretty well, I think. And what your inner child is asking for is number 6, cloud scrying. Number 6. Guidance and patiently seeking answers. Isn't it lovely while out on a picnic on a summer afternoon to lie down on the grass and watch the clouds go by? Look closely and you will see images dancing about the bright sky. For some non-magical folk, this may seem like a fun game of optical illusions, but the clouds hold valuable insight and guidance for those in tune with the spiritual realms and willing to wait patiently for their wisdom to unfold. Receiving this card is confirmation that your prayers have been heard and tells you to be patient as the answer presents itself. There is nothing more for you to do at this time except keep your eyes open for subtle clues and signs pointing you in the right direction. What appears hazy and formless at first can shift little by little until suddenly becomes clear, offering the answer to a question or solution to a chronic problem. If you're seeking answers from or about another person, know that they are contemplating and will respond soon. The shadow side of this card is attempting to force an answer. Asking the same question again and again won't change anything, but it could become irritating and frustrating to those on the receiving end. It doesn't matter whether you are directing your impatience towards spirit or towards someone you know. The answer will be given when the person is ready to give it. So, your inner child is asking not just for patience or stillness, it is asking for a connection to intuition here, I think. I mentioned paying attention to like symbols, synchronicities. It feels like your inner child is telling you that there are messages you are missing, and so thereby there's meaning in your life that you are missing. I think I used the term rat race before when I first pulled horse, and I think that that really applies, that like being caught up in the rat race and like not stopping to smell the roses, not noticing, not stopping to notice signs from the universe, or even just like within yourself, not noticing that, like, I've heard before people say like, you looking for a sign is a sign, and I think there's a lot of that here for you. It's not just about like woo-woo mystical stuff. It's also like, you know your own desires already, and yet you keep going against them. And you're not really like, this feels very closed off. It feels like it's a very closed off energy that's not bursting through. I'm not going to try to put it into words precisely. I'm going to move on for now and we can circle back. So I'm going to go in and read the description for sun tea here. Again, bearing in mind that this is a card asking, what am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now. It is Sun Tea number 41. Here we go. Sun Tea. Slow magic, calm living, and simplicity. Sun tea is slow magic in the most delicious way possible. Just fill a mason jar with fruit and herbs and let the sun gently extract precious nutrients. It's the easiest form of folk healing, a wonderful way to nourish your body and mind. Whether you're doing it for physical or spiritual reasons, sometimes the biggest magic is found in the smallest acts of bliss. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Less is more when pulling the Sun Tea card. Don't make things harder than they need to be by introducing too many options, too many steps, or too many people. In a world where everything is maxed out and amplified, this card advises you to keep things as uncomplicated as possible. Rather than focusing on doing more, scale back and do less really well. A chocolate cookie with brown butter, slowly aged whiskey, basil, and artisanal sea salt sounds lovely, but so does a good old-fashioned chocolate chip cookie baked to perfection. Adding extra layers is fine when the foundation is good, but otherwise it's just a busy mess that's all bark and no bite. This is another one that's very direct. So simplify, simplify, simplify. Sort of comes back to the idea of not needing to try too hard, not to make things harder than they actually are. It continues on the next page. There's no need to rush to move things along faster than is necessary, so you can slow down and rest assured that you aren't missing out. Don't feel pressured to go out when you don't feel like it, or to say yes to an opportunity just because it's available. The whole world doesn't need to be famous or rich or eccentric or living life in the fast lane. No lifestyle is bad or wrong as long as it fulfills your needs. This reading to me feels very straightforward compared to a lot of other readings. The way that these are written are very they work very well for the card's positions in the spread today. It's very similar to the cloud scrying as far as that idea of stopping to smell the roses, the slow down basically. Slow down. It doesn't need to feel this hard. It doesn't need to feel this scary or this fast, or not everything is do or die. A lot of life is just, the way it popped in my brain to say this is that a lot of life is the part in the Ghibli movie where they're just cooking for a minute. Do you know what I mean? Where it just slows down and there's no plot happening. It's just can just kind of be for a little while. In practical terms, I would say you don't need to, first of all, you don't need to monetize all of your hobbies if you're somebody who's doing that quite a lot. And you also don't need to rule out or take away from yourself all of the hobbies that you're not monetizing or you do not think are monetizable. I think with that horse card, it can feel sort of like maybe your first gut instinct is following your passions, looking like pursuing your dream job. And that's lovely. People say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's not true. Your dream job is still a job. And if your career can be something that you're passionate about and that you truly enjoy most of the time at least, that's a very good and lovely thing. And also, have dreams, even if you have a dream job, and even if you have that dream job, still you need to have dreams outside of that job. Does that make sense? Sorry, I just had to cut that out. I had to cough. I'm a little bit sick again. I've been on and off sick of late. Probably it would be smart for me to have literal, actual sun tea. Sorry, my voice sounds off, is I guess my point there. That's alright, though. For now, let us move on to summer berries. This is the most directly advice card in the reading. The question is, how did I word it? What do I need to do for us what do I need to do for you in order for us to tap back into your joy? And the answer was summer berries. The number is 34. The keywords are ripening, sweetness, and maturity. It says here, we live in a fast world that was never meant to be so fast. It takes months for fruits and vegetables to reach maturity, and there is an important lesson to be learned by observing their growth. Your situation needs time to ripen, just like summer berries. Pick your harvest too early, and it may be sour, bitter, or tough to chew, whereas patience is rewarded by a sweet bounty of juicy fruit. You are on the right path, but it will take more time before you reach your desired outcome. So use this time to tend to small tasks. A garden requires you to be watchful of weeds and pests, and you can apply the same logic to your goals. Employ practical actions such as getting organized or evaluating your progress to help you determine your next steps. Accept that this is a process, and it is out of your control. Things will progress in the proper time, and any attempts to speed things along could leave you with an undesirable result. When this card appears, you can trust that you are safely working towards your long-term goals and will find success. It may take longer than you'd like, but nevertheless, it will happen. So, on the whole, this reading all of the cards seem very aligned to me in this reading. Wanting to work hard, wanting to like keep your head down and like stay, I'll say diligent. That's a good thing to want to do. And also, that cannot be your whole life. You need those moments of quiet calm, appreciating the textures of your day-to-day life. It's in cooking slowly for yourself. It's in enjoying like the fabric of the clothes that you're wearing. It's in like when you're in the shower, you're just like rushing to get in and out. Really like feel the water against your skin and the feeling of like shampoo in your hair and all those like little tiny things that you just kind of glide by in your day to day. Finding the small pleasures again. Your inner child here is clearly hiding in the small pleasures and specifically finds freedom in that. With cloud scrying, I think in particular your inner child is mostly asking for calm. Calm breeds creativity in a way. Like if you're picturing cloud gazing, having that idle time to just let your mind just wander and meander for a bit. That is good for you. That is good for your brain. I'm trying to remember a post that I saw years ago, I think on Tumblr, where somebody was describing like, I don't even remember the context, it was something about like the mind being similar to like a field and how you need to like let the mind go fallow for a bit. Like you need to not, if you're just like in a field literally, like if you're a farmer in a field, if you are always like planting crops to like get the most yield every single season, no matter what, that soil will deplete. So you need to like till the field and let it fallow. And that's how it rebuilds nutrients to grow. And I think what I'm seeing here is that lack of freedom feeling coming from not letting your mind fallow, not letting your mind have free time to rest. So start a practice for yourself of just focusing on trying to like build up a habit of throughout the day noticing little things. The next time, or maybe try like every time you take a sip of water to focus on like the feeling of that coolness of water in your throat. And that is just to try to train your mind to like notice sensations, because that makes you slow down. Don't just glide past the little things. Oh, I forgot about that. Don't glide past the little things in life. Now, we are also going to look at the root card here, which is meant to be sort of a general gist and vibe and energy being set across the reading as a whole. And you have sunset dinner. An invitation awaits you. Yell to the stars that you are ready to go. It is number 39. Keywords are an invitation, a seat at the table, and leveling up. You have been invited to the party and are about to receive your seat at the table. Your hard work is paying off and the people who matter have noticed. Are you ready to shoot your shot? A new opportunity can come at any moment, and you don't want to miss your chance to join the club. Do what you can to feel more confident and secure in your goals you are chasing. Get that pitch together, dress for success, and study or undertake research or anything else that is required to make you feel more prepared. A second meaning of this card is the need to spend time with people who can lift you up. They say you are the same as the 6 people you spend the most time with, which is perfectly fine if those people represent where you want your life to go. However, if you're finding you are frustrated, disappointed, or generally annoyed with the way your current circle of people are behaving, then it might be time to find people who will push you out of your comfort zone and inspire you to be great. That's not quite what I expected for your root card to be. There wasn't too much about other people in this, but I think that second meaning is the focus for you. The idea of paying attention to your circle. This might not be true for everyone in this group, but I think for a lot of you, there's a big go-getter energy in here, wanting to be want to hustle, maybe grind, that kind of thing. And I want to make sure that you're not focusing more on networking than you are on community building for yourself. Make sure that you are leaving space in your life for friendships or friend groups outside of leveling up, outside of building your careers and stuff. Have hobbies that have a social element. That can sound a little bit overwhelming if you're not used to that. But I think it's clear that you really need to not feel like you're wasting your time every moment you spend not building towards your goals. It is good to build towards your goals, but I think there's a lot of bad advice out there about make sure every single decision you're making is for your single highest goal. It's okay to just be hey, I want to chill and play The Sims for a little bit. You know what I mean? But again, you should really look into, and if you have already, nurture into the hobbies in your life that have opportunities for friendships and connection. And let those people inspire you. You will get a lot out of that. In particular, you get a lot out of, you're going to get a lot of inspiration and energy from that. That would end up serving you better career-wise or research-wise, academically, intellectually. It will serve you better in those ways to be fed whole like that. That is your reading, Jellybean Group. You know what? I'm going to set you aside. Keeping that one. Hello, razzmatazz group. A card, as I was shuffling, just fell out, so we're keeping that. We're going to make this be the first card of your reading. This card is the disconnect between the adult consciousness and the inner child. And you got wand making. With a flick of focus, you will come to see a vision realized. I am not immediately sure what to make of that. As being like to do with that disconnect. I'm going to pull the cards before I read their descriptions from the booklet, so we will take a little bit we will first get the other cards out. But that's an interesting one. Card number 2. Asking your inner child, what are you truly asking me for? Wow. This was in the previous readings, the previous group's reading in a different position. This is horse. Unsure of how to break out of your cage, spirit shares strength through acts of liberation. That one's very much about feeling freer. So there's going to be some overlap with the previous group, I think. We will have to see. Card number 3. What am I not doing enough right now to make you feel safe? Green Witch. No one decision is insignificant. The act of intentionality calls to you. I pulled this card in a reading for myself a couple months ago that was it really stuck in my mind. So I feel very connected to this card. And your 4th card. What can I do? What can I do for you to help us tap back into your joy? Your answer is farmer's market. Remember to distinguish abundance from wholeness. Choose wisely and intentionally. So 2 of your cards mention specifically the idea of intention. Going to move straight to reading the descriptions. The first one, the disconnect card. Wand making, number 43. I told the other 2 groups as well that with this reading I sometimes like to pay attention to the numbers on the cards and see if that feels meaningful to me at all. Usually specifically to do with ages for this particular spread. You don't have to do that, but you can pay attention and note that. if you feel called to do so. Alright, the disconnect card. Wand making. Creation, directing energy, and manifestation. A wand is a ritualistic tool that is used to direct energy and also to summon energy, angels, and deities. It is a way to connect with your desired outcome, opening a channel of manifestation from the spirit realm to you on earth. This card is a vision. No, I'm sorry, I misread. This is a card of vision and focus on your desires. When it appears, you may be looking ahead to your future, beginning to craft a clear understanding of what you want your life to look like in the coming days, months, and even years. Receiving this card is your encouragement to hold this vision and direct all of your energy towards these goals. But also keep your mind and eyes open. As you focus your intention on manifesting your dreams, you'll find that the right opportunities and people will connect with your energy, offering exactly what you need to get ahead. The last meaning of this card is that you are creating a stable position for yourself. The foundations are being laid for what will likely be a great success. Your confidence is growing, and with it, your momentum. Keep up the good work with your dreams front and center. That is a fascinating card to be in this position. With the horse card here, I mentioned that I think this will have a lot of overlap with the previous group. And that group had a lot to do with sort of career and maybe like focusing too much on the career and not like, not enjoying the small things in life. And the advice I gave there felt like it needed to be about like redirecting that focus to the smaller joys. I'm getting immediately the vibe here that it's very similar to the previous group, except that I think the advice might be the opposite. I think the advice here will probably end up being about like leaning into your ambitions and focusing on your passions in the specifically like career field. And this wand-making card is being the place of disconnect. I think this is one of the very rare times for this reading where it's saying that disconnect is, if there is any disconnect there, it's very small. You are pretty tapped into the inner child, and it is specifically, it is at its strongest, and you are most connected to that when you think about your dream job, dream career, the things you want to build and make within like work, which is very cool. This is a very fun reading. I like this a lot. And you might not be at this place yet. You might very well be somebody who is very likely a student, or maybe somebody just in like a 9-to-5, or like a sort of like a transitional job for you, where you know that's not going anywhere, but it's paying your rent. You know what I mean? So, and there's no shame in that. I'm not criticizing that whatsoever. So, you might not necessarily be already there, already like building that up, but I think you have big ideas. I think they are likely specifically creative ideas. And I think your biggest goals, your biggest ambitions are where you are most tapped into your inner child. And that it will probably be the thing that makes you feel the freest as we start to get into this next card. I'll read that now, but seeing the idea of freedom as being first of all, focused on financial freedom in a lot of ways, but not just financial freedom in terms of luxury, excess. It's not about a trip to San Tropez. It's about resources to make cool shit. I think that's the vibe I'm getting here, which I really like for you. Is it rude if I say I sometimes pick favorites when I'm doing these readings? I think you're my favorite. Horse. This is what your inner child is truly asking you for. Number 18, horse. Freedom, regality, confidence, and strength. Horses are meant to be wild and free, which is why they are such powerful creatures that are capable of running for long distances and over different terrain. It's not uncommon to hear tales of having to break a horse when attempting to domesticate a wild one. How sad it must be for a horse to go from roaming endless landscapes to being confined to a small box inside a barn. If a horse remains bound for long enough, they may fail to see when the opportunity presents itself to run back into the wild. When the horse card gallops into your reading, it could be a sign that your spirit is broken and that you have lost your sense of regality and strength. You may feel stuck, stagnant, bored, or stuck in a rut, unsure of how to break out of your cage or find more passion and excitement. Dig deep and reconnect with your sense of freedom. Remove the shoulds and supposed to do's from your perspective and follow your heart and instincts. The beauty about being free is that you can change your mind if you go one way and find that it doesn't work. Simply shift directions and try something else, never apologizing for not being caged. So as I said, I think maybe the vibe here is that you are not quite at that place of working on your biggest ambitions. And your inner child is asking you to tap into that. You have visions for a reason. I'm getting the vibe that you are straight up a visionary in a creative sense. And you should feel very emboldened to tap into that as much as possible. Let's move on to card number 3. This is, what am I not doing enough to make you feel safe right now? And you got Green Witch, number 12. The keywords are consequences of your actions, mindfulness, and interconnectedness. A green witch is in tune with nature, sensing the connection between herself and all living things. She speaks to plants, animals, the skies and rivers, hearing their guidance and sorrows, taking just enough for her needs while bringing awareness to the ways humans have negatively impacted the planet. Knowing how she treats the earth is reflected in how she treats herself, and how she treats herself is likewise mirrored in the entire collective consciousness. Greenwich is here to remind you to be mindful of the consequences of your energy. The words you speak, the way you view yourself and others, as well as the actions you take, have an impact on all of humanity. If you are cruel to someone, that person may go on to harm themselves or others. If you hide your light away from the world because of low self-worth or shame, then you rob others of the chance to love and appreciate the gifts you were sent here to share. What you say and do matters, even if you can't see the immediate cause and effect of your choices. And what you don't say and the ways you don't show up also have consequences. In the context of this reading, I think that the idea of hiding your light from the world feels like it makes a lot of sense to me right now. That how did I word it a moment ago? I forget already. But that idea of not feeling free enough to tap into that wand-making energy, to tap into pursuing those big goals you have, the ambitions. I think a lot of you in this group have specifically the kinds of goals and dreams where the things you want to make could be so powerful and could specifically really inspire and kind of rally other people, other creatives. And you're still waiting for what? For permission, waiting until, is it one of those things once I get a romantic partner, then I can, then I'll feel worthy. Once I lose that weight, I'll feel worthy. Once I, is there always a set of moving goalposts that you need to have achieved in order for you to be okay, and then once that's done, then I can start working on those big plans I have? Is there maybe a sense of what I think it is I think you're stuck in someday mode. I think that you've had visions for yourself, for things you want to do and build for a very long time now. And you're stuck in picturing that happening someday. And you end up putting yourself into something of a catch-22, wherein eventually the goalposts that you set for yourself become okay, once I have proven I can do this by already having done it, then I'll let myself do it. And you don't think that in words, because then you would catch how ridiculous that is and how impossible that is. But I think maybe on some level that's something you've done for yourself. It's be okay, once I've already done it, then I'll do it. And that's not possible. You know that. That really comes back to that asking for that sense of freedom here, the horse card. Sort of feeling not just free, but unafraid. Is it Nina Simone? Is that who I'm thinking of? What is that quote? Being I know what freedom looks like, no fear. And I think you're kind of holding on to that. Holding on to fear of pursuing things that you know very well you want so badly and would be good at. But like, what if it doesn't work? Okay, is not doing it working? You know? So, I think you should really trust your vision and your ability. But we have here the final card, and this is very much the advice card of the reading. Let's give this a read here. Farmer's Market. Number 9. This is, what can I do? What can I do for you to help us tap back into your joy? Keywords are abundance of choices and farm to table, parentheses, source to spirit. I don't think I've ever read this card. There is something magical about seasonal eating and living farm to table. Food is never fresher than when it's pulled directly from the earth. Sadly, many of us do not have access to our own gardens, but fortunately, farmers' markets are becoming more common as people seek to return to a slower way of living. Each market offers far more than your traditional grocery store, from heirloom varieties to unique hybrids created by knowledgeable farmers. There are many paths for your question or situation, but not all paths will lead to success. Each option offers a different flavor and may prove to be something you don't enjoy. Choose carefully, being mindful that the option that appears to be perfect may be hiding something underneath, such as a perfectly formed tomato with a worm inside. When you are faced with an overwhelming amount of choices, lean on your higher self to guide you to the right answer. Your spirit is connected to Source, God, the greater intelligence, or any other name you use to identify the divine. The answer is always available to you, but sometimes your ego attempts to rationalize choices that should be made from your heart and soul. You may wish to spend time in meditation or communing with the earth in stillness for more guidance, or consider using the farmer's market spread in the Leaf the Card Spreads chapter for expanded answers. I have not looked at that, I'll be honest. They have at the beginning of the little booklet here some spreads. It's never occurred to me to actually do a video using one. Maybe I'll try doing that. I have a little journaling prompt. They recommend journaling as well, a little bit there. So this is focused on the idea of choices. Maybe that's another blockage for you as far as pursuing your biggest goals. The idea of I wanted to say indecision, but that's not quite what it is it? It's more lack of clarity. And so indecision can sometimes feel or even be prudent when you are correct that there is a lack of clarity. My take on this is that you have ways of working towards those goals and preparing yourself to be ready when the time comes that doesn't require diving in head first, headlong, eyes closed off a cliff. You know what I mean? You can really. You can start building the skills you know you'll need. You can start writing and planning and even trying to connect with people who you know will be helpful for you down the line without this. You don't need to quit your job today about it. You don't need to you can wait for that clarity, and that clarity will become easier to achieve as you start building the skills up that you know you will need on your way. And that's going to make it a lot easier to tap into freedom when the time is right for you. It's not the fourth card I was expecting, to be honest. I think that I'm going to read the root card, as I said, which is sort of a general gist over the reading on the whole. However, I think first I feel somewhat called to read your cusp card. Now, people have their own different practices with reading tarot. The next card, on the top left, on the top of the deck, after pulling out all the cards for the reading, I personally refer to as the cusp card. And to me, it can be helpful sometimes as being the card that was very nearly in the reading but is not. So the idea there being that this is almost what the deck is saying, but it distinctly is not. And so I think I'm going to pull that for clarity on this idea of choices. You got hydration, number 20. There is more to the story than meets the eye. Be mindful of what hides beneath the surface. And I'm familiar with this card, so I'm not going to read it verbatim from the booklet. But the idea here is basically that, if you're feeling dehydrated and you're just trying to, put on moisturizer and lotion, sure, those are nice things, but you need to be, drinking more water. You need to get to the root of the problem rather than just treating the symptoms. In regards to some of the bigger choices you maybe need to make for these, these visions, these goals you have in mind, maybe it has to do with who you're trying to build with, or maybe it's more even aesthetic choices in some way. I think with this card, the cusp card, it's interesting that it's not saying this. So it's not saying that the issue is a foundation problem with you. It's not that. Nothing in your base is the issue, which to me makes a lot of sense with the wand making card. As I said, sort of showing that you don't have too strong of a disconnect to your inner child. You are very tapped in, or at least very capable of tapping in with ease. So your problem is not at the foundation level necessarily. I'm taking that to mean, let me fix my light. Taking that to mean that maybe your problem is not the choices you're stuck between. Maybe it is more a matter of indecision in some way. The play here between Greenwich and Farmer's Market. That idea of intentionality. The Greenwich card calls for being more cognizant. It does not call for hesitation. That dog barking is on my end, I'm so sorry. It calls for being cognizant, maybe specifically interpersonally, but you do not need to wait around forever. You do not need to lose out on that sense of freedom and that sense of relinquishing fear. The vibe I'm getting here is actually pretty much trusting your instincts, I think. But let's look at your root card as well. That might help grant some clarity here. Oh, Sunday, this also was in the previous group. That's so interesting, God. This is a weird reading today. Sunday, 41. Slow, intentional, delicious interweaving with life holds more magic than you think. This is basically about slow living, enjoying the little things. You know what? I'll read it for you. Let's read it. Number 41. Slow magic, calm living, and simplicity. Sun tea is slow magic in the most delicious way possible. Just fill a mason jar with fruit and herbs and let the sun gently extract precious nutrients. It's the easiest form of folk healing, a wonderful way to nourish your mind and body. Whether you're doing it for physical or spiritual reasons, sometimes the biggest magic is found in the smallest acts of bliss. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Less is more when pulling the Sun Tea card. Don't make things harder than they need to be by introducing too many options. Goes back to the Farmer's Market card. Too many steps or too many people. In a world where everything is maxed out and amplified, this card advises you to keep things as uncomplicated as possible. Rather than focusing on doing more, scale back and do less really well. A chocolate cookie with brown butter, slowly aged whiskey, basil, and artisanal sea salt sounds lovely, but so does a good old-fashioned chocolate chip cookie baked to perfection. Adding extra layers is fine when the foundation is good, but otherwise it's just a busy mess that's all bark and no bite. There's no rush to move things along faster than necessary, so you can slow down and rest assured that you aren't missing out. Don't feel pressured to go out when you don't feel like it, or say yes to an opportunity just because it's available. The whole world doesn't need to be famous or rich or eccentric or living life in the fast lane. No lifestyle is bad or wrong as long as it fulfills your needs. All right, that did help clarify that for me. The idea here is not to hesitate on your biggest goals. The idea here is to remember that you don't need to be doing the most straight out the gate, especially if this is career-wise, and maybe most especially if this is about building or opening a business for yourself. I don't think that's the case for all of you, but I think quite a lot of you in this group, it's going to be in the form of starting your own business. whatever it is, you don't need to come out the gate as that final vision you have in mind. That's too complicated. There's too many things. Focus on the foundation of that. What is it at its heart? What can you introduce sooner? And then let yourself build on from there. Let yourself build a foundation. And then as that grows, add more to it until you build up to your biggest ideas. Do so intentionally, but do so without fear. Again, with that wand making card, you are very tapped into your inner child, or at least you can easily tap into it. Trust that. Trust your instincts. Trust your joy and let yourself build the cool shit that you have in mind. I think you should take this reading as permission in a lot of ways. Permission, however, tempered by the advice to start smaller. But start. That is it for you, razzmatazz group. I should have known you'd be my favorite, because if you chose the word razzmatazz, you are a little crazy, and I like that about you. Thank you for being here with me. I hope that you got something from this. And I wish you the best of luck in your venture.